I'm so excited for you to meet my next guest in my Entrepreneurs Who Work From Home series. She leads an organization spanning 3 countries and brings incredible wisdom to the table. You're going to be so inspired by her unique approach to entrepreneurship and what she calls her rhythm of life. So welcome to my channel. I'm Gail Bates, and if you're new here, I post videos every week on how to handle work-life balance with practical tips on making accountability and productivity fun and simple for entrepreneurs who work from home. I'd love you to hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified if you want to see more videos and hear great advice about life in the fast lane as an entrepreneur. So my guest this week is Marijane Relth, and she is an exceptional leader in the world of fashion in the direct selling industry, and I'm honored to be her friend. Marijane is an intuitive leader whose focus is lifting up people. And in this interview, I want you to pay close attention to her wise words about the rhythms of her day, her week, and her life, and practical tips on scheduling in your calendar. Hey, Marijane, welcome. I'm so excited to chat with my bestie about your journey as being an entrepreneur working from home for many, many years. And I know you're going to have some great tips for us here today. And so welcome.
Oh, thank you. So it feels like old home week, just sitting here with you.
I know.
Right?
I know. So I always love to start off talking about, and I know you are someone who you run teams in 3 different countries. You have other businesses. So what does your daily routine look like? How does that work for you? I'm sure it's a little different to other people.
Well, my daily routine is pretty rhythmic, I would say. Steve and I get up pretty early. We're early risers. And so I tend to start the day, of course, like many others, just with my inspiration and quiet time. And I then ease into the admin things, some of the admin things that are in the moment. And because I do have the opportunity to work with women, I think we're in 7 or 9 different time zones. My early morning is tea time for some of my gals across the pond. So sometimes I do my early morning connecting before the fish are even up here in Oceanside. So. Right. Yeah. So around 9 o'clock, 9 in the morning Pacific, I almost feel like I've gotten most of my workday important things out of the way.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. If you're an early riser, it's nice to be able to sit back around mid-morning and say, oh, okay, I've really accomplished quite a lot, right?
Oh, my goodness. Just check, right? So, yeah, feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how do you structure the rest of the day with, any
calls
kind of events and things?
So I pretty much have for years had a rhythm to my week that, backs into the rhythm of a day. Mm-hmm. So my Mondays, being an admin day, are also my day to connect with my organizations. Mm-hmm. So Monday mornings, I do I'll say a worldwide, that sounds big, but it's just a small group, but a worldwide call for all of our women in our organization. And that's recorded in my Zoom room. And of course, then it's posted up into our private Facebook group for those who are working full time or in a time zone that it doesn't work, they listen in later. Mm-hmm. And then on Thursday mornings, I do the same thing, but it's an invitation only. And that's to my frontline sort of iron sharpening iron group, my leader group. That's not recorded, and that's a get it or regret it kind of call. So that's weekly also. And then throughout the week, and then Thursday, Fridays are kind of protected time because I get my loud littles, our grandsons, spend the night with us on Thursday nights. And so I kind of clear the decks on my business from noon on Thursday until 5 o'clock on Friday. And of course, I'm happy to field a call if there's an emergency, but there's really no emergencies in my business. So yeah, that's kind of protected time. And then other than that, the flow is very fluid. I'm maybe a little different than some entrepreneurs. I don't have real set hours for certain things. but I batch activities. And then another have to in my schedule is me and my fresh air, like above all else, me and the fresh air is super important to not just for me personally, but I think it makes me the leader that I am by taking a lot of quiet time outside.
Right.
That's every single day.
I love that. And you've always talked about the rhythm of things. And I love that you have brought that into your daily life, your weekly life. I mean, I remember your Monday call has been around for years, right?
Yeah,
and you're still working that lovely rhythm of making it happen. Yeah.
And it's funny you say that because, this time of year, we're always going through that process in our mind of the add, toss, save. What are we going to add? What are we going to get rid of? What's working that we're keeping? And every year I think, is this dated? Should I let go of my Monday morning call? And I think my women would, go find another leader if I did. I mean, it sort of sets their week. So I hemmed myself in for a while and now they hem me in. Like it's not going away. So
it's a testament to consistency.
Yeah.
That's so important being an entrepreneur in business. It's being consistent and sticking to it. And that's a huge testament because you have done that Monday call for years.
Yeah. I mean, I literally, unless it is Christmas, we're on there.
Right. On a Monday.
On a Monday. Yeah. On a Monday.
Yeah.
So it's served us all really well.
And that's such great advice for entrepreneurs, that consistency part. Let's talk a little bit about your workspace setup because our workspace setup always looks just beautiful. And now what I see in the background is a map.
Well, thank you for saying it always looks okay because it's getting on my last nerve right now, I have to tell you. I mean, I just cannot get to the next. It needs a little a little overhaul rather. But for efficiency, it works really well, right?
That's the key. That's what I wanted.
Is the key. It's not, it is function over aesthetics for me. Yeah. Function first. So on my office setup, I do have a bank here of built-ins that I put in years ago. Remember, Pam Chapman is one of the greats, right? Entrepreneurs. And Pam had her office done, and I just copied it exactly. Just I called the same contractor, said, give me what she has. Boom, I'm done. And it's just perfect. So my cabinets and everything are right there. And then the rest is sort of conversational open space. But my maps, that's been front and center. So because I do have an organization spread across 3 countries, this season or this year, I really was casting a vision for something larger than we had done in the past. And I knew that to keep it, front and center for me, I'm really a visual person. I have, I'll just show you my little maps because they are. Yes. So I have my map of Canada here.
Right.
Under it, I have my map of the UK.
Right.
And my map of the US is over here. And so what I did was I just sort of put on my maps where my hot spots were of my leaders and where I was projecting growth that I wanted to make happen. And then we set some goals. And, wouldn't you know it, I mean, the minute you cast the vision and keep it in front of you, those little brain pathways go to work overtime in our subconscious. And we just went over the top of the goal that we had set.
That's so inspirational because that's one of the other questions I'd want to lead in. You led into it basically. Is your goal setting process? So this was a process that you developed to expand your organization. Can you give us some tips about how you set your goals, the process of how it works for you?
When it comes to things like growth, my process might be a little bit different than, when it comes to helping set goals in my personal business, because, most of us entrepreneurs, there's the front facing side of our business where I have a customer base that I'm building relationship with over years, gaining and retaining and all of that. And to my customers, I think they see my business as just that, right? But the real inward facing side of my business is that I have a massive organization of women that are doing what I do. And so setting goals for the front face is quite different. I can set my sales goal and my bookings goal and all of those types of things. That process is different. When I'm setting a goal for growth, for me, it is very much an intuitive rather than a real nuts and bolts kind of. I think you know this about me. Like, I just see things before they happen, and I don't think what is probable. I just think what's possible, and I don't put any limits on it. So I've learned over the years, really, if you're an entrepreneur that thinks differently than others, and maybe you're a new entrepreneur, your thoughts are different. You're one of those that doesn't always have the ability to show your work, in other words, like we used to have to do in school. If you are that, just go ahead and be confidently leaning into that. Because I used to, when I was new, it was clear that I thought differently than other people. And there were times when I questioned, was that going to work? And oh my goodness, I never question it now. The beauty of getting older, we do get a little wiser, is that for me, I am a different kind of leader. I don't know anyone else that does it like I do. That's okay. My process works for me. So when I see it in my head, feel it in my bones, it's going down as a galvanized goal, and it happens.
I love it. It's trusting in your own process,
right?
How it works for you,
and not what others have done in the past. Like, I don't set my numbers off what someone else has done, because I don't see anyone stretching their limit.
Right. And I think that's your success. That's your specific success. Okay. And because, as we've been friends for so many years, and we've been in the field together, and we have both worked differently. And that's, I think, is the point you're trying to make. Everybody works differently, and everybody sets their goals differently, but it's trusting in your own process, I think, is what you're sharing here, which I think is beautiful for a lot of entrepreneurs to know that the path you're on is the one that's going to get you to where you want to go, right?
And, to that point, a perfect example is, so my husband's name is Steve, as you well know, Stevie Boy. And we are polar opposites when it comes to this. So even in a marriage, let alone a business, because we're all, obviously we're in a marriage, long-term marriage, and Steve is very supportive of my business, and we're in business together in some other things. So what we've learned over the years is how very different we go about a goal. I am a conceptual thinker, and I see it already completed. And Steve is a detail person to the nth degree. So I used to say to him, I'd lay out this great vision about something, this, that, and the other. And he would look at me and, kiss of death, he'd say, well, how did you get there? How are you going to make that happen? And I would look at him and I'd say, seriously? You're just like sucking the living life out of me by asking that. What are you talking about? How am I going to get there? This is what's going to happen. So now we can, of course, joke about it, but it used to be a little difficult getting to the same place because he had such a different process.
Yeah. And I think that's important for other people to know that, when you're on the path you want to be on and know it, you just follow it, right?
Yeah.
That's exciting and fun.
Yeah, very fun.
Yeah. But it is. The goal setting process is different for everybody. And, some people need to be taken by the hand, and some people will just go for it. And I think
And as I was going to say on the goal setting side of things, of course, that's top of mind because this time of year being December.
Right, exactly.
I would say the universal, law of goal setting for all of us, no matter what business we're in, is making sure that as we're helping others kind of galvanize their plan, that the goals that they're setting are congruent with what the result is that they want. And so in our business, I'll just put it in terms for the business I'm, mentoring or coaching others with. So 3 different ways that a woman could set her goals in our business. She could set it by how much she wants to sell in a month.
Right.
She could set her goal by how much income she wants to make in a month.
Right.
Or she could set an activity goal for how many shows or connects she wants in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever orientation feels better, she can set that goal. But the other 2 ways of getting to that goal have to be congruent to add up to the very same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes they'll say to me, I want to make this amount of money monthly.
Yes.
And I want to do this amount of shows. Well, those 2 things don't possibly add up. So
Right.
let's go back and change one of them so that otherwise your subconscious mind pulls in 2 different directions because your mind knows they don't add up.
Exactly.
So
And that's a really great way of putting it because as you and I know, a lot of people in teams in the direct selling industry, people have fabulous goals, but you know from experience that they're never going to reach them because they're not congruent with what activities they're doing, right?
Yeah, and that part is much more of a mathematical equation that you do with people. So in that way, setting goals, for sure. And one of the things I've learned, which is fascinating, really, the way us women are wired, and I learned it through working with Margie, another mutual friend of ours. Some women really prefer to set an activity-based goal because setting a financial goal is very scary.
Yes.
I mean, it's interesting. So whichever way feels best to you to pursue, that's the one you want to have as your front runner, right?
No, it is. It's very true. It's the goal setting process is individualistic in a lot of ways, right?
And can be emotional for some.
Well, it is. Yeah. I think it's emotional for many, but we get there in the end, no matter which way.
Always with the why as the foundation, right?
Exactly.
Or we're not getting anywhere. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. In fact, I just, yesterday was my very first. My daughter is homeschooling our grandsons. And the one who is 10 and a half, when she asked him this season or whatever we call it in homeschool quarter this school year, what he wanted to learn most about, it was about making money and owning his own business. So immediately she's like, Mom, can you teach us, can you teach me
her in the making?
Oh my goodness. I was so excited about it. So yesterday, little Eli and I had our very first of a 12-week series. And we were talking about, the why, how important your why is. Like, why do you want to have your own business? Why do you want to be a leader? What is an entrepreneur? What does it mean to you? Why? And I thought, boy, this is just exactly what I do with my women. And he's 10,
Yeah, it's amazing.
The principles never change.
Well, that's why I'm doing this series, because this is what I call the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
I think that's why we are entrepreneurs that work from home. We love what we do. And I think,
oh my goodness. I say I'm a serial entrepreneur, unemployable by design. That's what I always say. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so we're going to move forward here and talk a little bit about what are your biggest challenges that you face working from home, like distractions or motivation dips, or, what is it that, irks you and that is part and parcel of what we have to deal with?
It really is. And, when I'm struggling to keep my focus, and I have to be honest, it's not often that I'm struggling only because I've been at it for so long, right? So those good sort of disciplines are just, they're just in my DNA now. But when I think back over the seasons of, where it was a little bit harder to stay the course, we have 4 children, of course, that, during those seasons, that was just ever so challenging. So color coding my calendar and, all of that, which we might talk about a little bit later. But when it comes to the biggest challenges always, were just that, when somebody who is much more a priority in your life than what your business represents, it's very difficult to put them on hold to do what needs to happen here so that you can go ahead and have all the quality time with them later. That's a delicate balancing act, I find. And so, having all the people that are your priorities, understanding that they're priorities, but that right now, here's the task at hand. So I guess that's, one of the distractions. Right now, the biggest distraction in my life is probably our grandkids, because I cannot bring myself to say no if my daughter calls and says, hey, we're in the neighborhood. Like, oh, I'm doing nothing. Come on by, But that's a want to also.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. It's a great thing, right? Yeah.
That's a great thing. But as far as the things like, oh, I should do the grocery shopping, I need to start dinner, I need to do laundry. That doesn't distract me anymore.
That's you're in a different season of life.
Yeah.
That exactly.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about productivity and time management. You mentioned earlier that you batch things. Do you?
Yes.
In productivity, what is the best way that you stay on top of your schedule?
And the batching, I want to, Gail, we were so fortunate, when we were just the young, sassy little brand new entrepreneurs. We had some of the greats mentoring us and pouring into us, right? And you being one of them, pouring into me when I was new. I mean, those things that I don't know, just those gold nuggets that people taught me have never left. So one of the things I learned from one of the greats, Pat Pearson, who is, of course, a psychotherapist who was specializing at the time working with leaders in the direct selling space.
Right.
And one of the things that Pat taught me early on was the importance of batching activities in your day, really in your day, so that your brain didn't get exhausted by noon, going from the right to the left, the artistic, creative to the admin. And I mean, I never heard those things before. Mm-hmm. And wow, is it true? So when I say batch my activities, when I need to do something creative, I'm pulling out all the stops on doing all my creative projects for a few hours. Mm-hmm. If it's admin things or I'm making phone calls, I'm going to do a lot of them at once so that my brain can relax into a rhythm, again, of operating on that side and doing those tasks.
Right.
So that's kind of what I mean by batching. It's a much more relaxing way to work rather than hopping from putting out one fire to another. That back and forth you won't feel exhausted. You will feel very fatigued.
Right.
That's a good thing to watch for throughout your day if you're feeling fatigue.
And I think that's important to watch for those areas. Yeah, where it's.
I mean, we don't have the water cooler where we're meeting with everybody else and chit-chatting, so we're our own governor when it comes to regulating ourselves, right?
Exactly. Yes.
But,
yes. And that's important. And that's why I'm doing this series. Another reason is understanding as being an entrepreneur when it's time to take a break, when it's time, to focus, you have to
all those things
do a day. Now, I know you're a big color coder in your calendar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how that works for you.
I will. And before I do that, let me just backtrack for just a minute, because I think this is another one of those golden nuggets that was shared with me forever, decades ago, that I still do today. In fact, I'm doing it either later this afternoon or tomorrow morning. But somebody had shared with me years ago to do hard things in beautiful places.
Interesting.
I mean, what a nice thought,
I've heard that one. And I've known you for a long time.
Well, yeah. I mean, isn't that a good one? So, and when I heard that, I thought, well, in a way, way back then, I kind of was doing it. And what I mean by that is that was back when our kids were all young and at home and involved in a million things. And it was before the internet and everything. But when I needed to focus on something, I would take my notebook and I would walk down to this sort of shopping center area within our neighborhood. And they had this beautiful fountain out there where kids would come play, and there were some stone steps. And I would walk down there, sit in the sunshine, and do my paperwork in front of that fountain. I didn't realize that is what I was doing. I was doing hard things, the things that don't, make my heart sing, the things that, like I said, suck the living life out of me, the paperwork, I would take my notebook and I would plant myself in a place that was nice and inspirational. And then I'd walk home. So when I heard somebody tell me a few years later that that's really a key to entrepreneurial success, is to do hard things in beautiful places, I've never forgotten it. Like, it's really good. So what I'm doing when I later today or tomorrow morning is I need to thoughtfully, not should, but need to, because it makes my heart feel good to do this every year, is I purchased the, just a little thing like the little Starbucks gift card. Right. And I write a little handwritten note to like my VIP clients, and just, when you're out and about running around, doing your errands, looking, your Cabi cutest and all of your festive new clothing, treat yourself to a mocha latte on me, just something simple like that. But if I tried to sit down at my desk and do that, with end of year coming and last looks and all of those, I wouldn't get it done. So I'm going to my favorite beautiful little coffee shop, having my lavender latte, my monkey bread, and I'm just going to do that, and it will be so enjoyable.
I love that. And it's similar here in Hawaii. We go to the beach, and I go to the beach and do that.
Yes, right.
I've got my important things I need to get done, and I'm sitting on the beach getting the work done.
Oh, we call it recess, but we're still working. It's just a different environment.
Exactly.
So important.
That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You can choose where you do a little bit of work, right? And I love that. But I love the idea of, I'm a big Starbucks supporter. I send a lot of Starbucks gift cards to a lot of people. I love,
it's just a thought, So, yeah. Okay, so color coding, yes. That was something I think probably most entrepreneurs know this trick, but for those who don't, those that are fresh on the journey, I will tell you that the minute you get in the discipline of doing this, everything changes. I mean, your life just sort of calms down to that, not even a dull roar. It just calms down to exactly the rhythm that you want. And so I learned early on to work from, I'm still working from a paper calendar. And honestly, I almost insist that the people that I'm working with work from a paper calendar. Yeah. Everything we do cannot be in the ethers. I don't care how much you love technology. It's scientifically proven. Our brain doesn't work that way. So there you go. I'll stand on the scientists instead of my own feelings on that. But anyway, so I love to use a 30-day at a glance. I want to see the whole month mapped out, again, for balance and rhythm. And I use 3 colors on my calendar, always have. And yellow is the very first color that goes on my calendar, and it goes on there for months in advance to the best of my ability. And yellow, think of that as the caution tape around your days. Yellow is protected, I'm not working days. So it's our vacation time. It's, I taught the kids early on, if there's something they want me to attend at school or sports, whatever, something special, they're going to take a yellow marker and put it around one of the boxes on my day.
Yeah.
So for you younger gals with kids at home, get them involved. Help them understand the color code on your calendar so they know what's going on, and give them ownership to weigh in on it and put their, yellow protected, I want mom there kind of boxes. So yellow goes on first. The second thing, and you know what, I just want to point out the obvious, but yellow goes on first, ladies, because our life needs to take precedence over anything else.
Right.
So put that in there first. Do not give your life the leftovers. Okay.
Yeah.
So that goes on first. All right. And then the second color that goes on my calendar is pink. And for me, that signifies kind of connection time. So every Monday morning, I've got pink. Obviously, every Thursday morning, any of my gathering times, in person. Tomorrow night, I'm doing a team dinner. So obviously, that's a pink box. Any of our company conferences or incentive trips, those are all pink. So that goes on my calendar next, as far out as I know.
Right.
And it's so interesting. Once you have those colors on your calendar, then you can look at your calendar. And I say this even to the people whose dance card is so full, you can't even see daylight.
Right.
I tell you, it's interesting when you put it down on paper in this visual color code, what magically happens is these white spaces bubble up.
Right.
And you see, oh my goodness, I do have time.
Exactly.
I do have time for my business.
Yeah.
And so the last thing that goes on my calendar are my green boxes. And those green, of course, signifies money. Exactly. So those are my days that I do my personal styling appointments with my clients.
Right.
I have fashion shows, or I have in-home shows. I mean, those are my working days, so to speak.
Right. Right.
My money generating days.
Yes.
Now, if you're one that tends to enjoy networking groups or something like that, that would be a pink.
Right.
I don't tend to do that. So my green boxes are, revenue generating occasions.
Yes. Yes. That's brilliant, because we talk a lot about entrepreneurs doing a lot of busy work where we might spend 8 hours a day doing busy work and it doesn't bring in
count.
Drop of revenue.
Nope.
And so it's important that you know exactly when the what we call the revenue generating tasks or activities. And it's important that you are, those are tasks that you are putting into your calendar that you are actually, taking action on every day.
And holding myself accountable, right? I mean, who else is going to? That's the thing about an entrepreneur, if it's to be, it's up to me. If we want to eat, I guess I better stick to my green boxes.
I know, exactly.
And you know what? We still love eating.
I love it. Well, I know that everybody's going to be taking a lot of notes on this information that you've been sharing. And I know you're a paper person like I'm a paper person, but are there any technology tools or apps that you do use in running your business that you feel work for you?
Not really, Gail. I mean, aside from obviously the technology that is company specific to the companies that I work with, I embrace all of that technology. Right. And Zoom, I definitely don't think that I would be running as successful of organizations and teams if I wasn't embracing Zoom quite a bit. Right. But other than that, I mean, I use WhatsApp, which is not anything fancy, but because I have a lot of international gals. Yeah. And that seems to be a little bit more their preference than texting. Right. So, Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I don't embrace. Sometimes I need to use it, but I don't love it. And that is that it seems like every year or every couple of years, there's yet one more way that people use to get a hold of us.
Right.
And that is problematic as an entrepreneur. I don't care how much we love technology or dislike it. It's problematic because there's only so many minutes in a day. And if I'm fishing around all the time to find out which modality she used to communicate with me, that for me is exhausting.
Yeah.
So from my behaviors, I try to guide people into email.
Right.
Or text.
Right.
So those other messaging services, even though they might be other people's favorites, they're not my favorite, and they cause me extra work.
Right. So it's just setting those boundaries, basically.
Yeah, that's a boundary.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of boundaries we have to use as entrepreneurs. And I think it's important to set the boundaries that really work for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're always gentle nudges back over to the paths that I prefer.
Right.
But I'll tell you a strong boundary that might be helpful for some. And it's interesting, as the world turns culturally, how we've, just changed in the way we communicate, right? Enough said about that. But one of the things that I find today is that a lot of people that my leaders even, they will text me a question that absolutely needs to be unpacked in a conversation. But and I'll say the word allow, that's a little bit strong of a word, but I'll say this. If I responded to that with a very long, summary essay, paragraphs to respond to her, I would be teaching her that we don't have to talk on the phone, that text is the way I train.
Yes.
And I want to be real clear with every entrepreneur that listens to this. I do not train by text.
Yeah.
If someone is not coming to a conversation, I am not handing it out.
All about the conversation, because
oh my heavens,
the interpretation of a text is so different from the interpretation of a talk, right?
And you answer a question on text and it begets another question. And then, 20 minutes later, somebody would be thinking, I could have just called and nailed this in 2 minutes.
And, I think this is such an important thing for entrepreneurs to understand, because, it can lead to people not understanding. Could be a customer that's going to be, a great customer that you lose because of a texting misunderstanding. Yeah.
Well, my goodness, I'll give you a perfect example on the customer end.
Yeah.
It just happened day before yesterday. And so I have the same boundary with a customer. So this is a gal, I care deeply about her. Yeah. And she's kind of in a hard situation right now. She actually had to completely get rid of her wardrobe because of some mold issues. And she's in a world of hurt. She needs help and she's reaching out to me and I am so happy to serve her.
Right.
But I cannot get her on the phone. She texts me, do you have anything that would work for me from this season? Do you have this? Do you have that? And I'm saying to her, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
And she's so far not willing. I'm not willing. I haven't said this to her in these words because it sounds too strong, but I'm not willing to go out and source a whole wardrobe for her by text.
Yeah.
I need a conversation. Yes. So when you're ready, I'm your girl. So
conversation is so important. And I know
the lost art.
Yeah, I share that with all my own coaching clients. You have to have those conversations and meaningful conversations.
Meaningful. And what else is the magic in the mix?
Exactly.
Right? They can go online anywhere, but we're the magic in the mix.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you feel the same way. I'm sure you would.
Yeah, that also leads into collaborations and communications and staying connected with people what is the best way that you do, that you obviously you pick up the phone and you talk to people, but do you have any other tips for entrepreneurs on how you stay connected, especially in your business? You're always looking for new people that might be interested in the fashion business. And how do you stay connected and, get in front of people you haven't met before? How does that work for you?
Right, because that's kind of an ongoing thing, right?
Yeah,
organic. And a couple things come to mind. First, this kind of pairs back to a question you asked earlier when we were talking about rhythms of the week and everything. And one of the things I didn't mention that is a set rhythm, so I don't even have to think about it, it just kind of happens, is that on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and there's no rhyme or reason to this other than I picked those days for me.
Right.
On Wednesdays and Saturdays, I send out a correspondence to my customers. So they hear from me through like a company e-blast twice a week. And I can get into my back office and, again, batching activities. I can schedule those for future sends. So, for instance, I was just talking to my leaders and I said, why don't you get all of your correspondence for the month of December locked and loaded so you don't even have to think about it, like automate your business through that. Okay, so that's another part of the rhythm. So communicating with my clients that way, they do get an electronic something or something. But having, again, batching your activities where you've got a couple hours, I can make the one-off calls all day long, but I like to map out my time on my calendar where I'm going to call a certain amount of people. And then I work from, because I'm a paper person, I work from a couple of notebooks. And of course, the 3 notebooks that I mainly work from are green because they signify revenue, right? So one of them is a customer notebook where I just have in alpha order, and also in that same notebook, I have chronological. So I have alphabetical, and then I have the months of the year. So I could reference somebody either way. I tend to use the chronological a little bit more in my business because we're in a 6-month selling season. And so, for me, that makes sense. Or to go year over year, to look at my December clients last year who maybe haven't freshened up something they need this December, like that. So I tend to use that. And then, when I'm communicating with my clients, I make sure, first of all, that I am not multitasking.
Yes.
I'll say for me as an entrepreneur, that's another, I call it a superpower. Others would view it as a weakness, but I literally cannot multitask. Yeah. And I'm happy about that. I'm glad that my brain doesn't work that way. I want to be all in. Just all in with you right now, Yeah. It's very off-putting to me when people are doing 2 and 3 things at once. Yeah. So when I'm doing that, I love to do it in a nice, inspiring window downstairs, having a cup of tea or whatever. But not rushing, And
then are you out of the house meeting people? I mean, you have particular events that you attend. How do you meet new people that you have never met before?
So I very much grow my business through what I think you identify it the same way. Rather than networking, I always think in terms of net weaving. So I weave the things that I love to do in my own life into the relationships in the community. So one of the groups that I'm in is a service organization called Seroptimus, very much like Rotary. I've been in it for years. I find that when I'm serving in my own community and lifting others for a common cause, you develop really strong relationships, and women love working with women they're in relationship with. So I don't have to work for my business in those circles. It just automatically is woven in there. They know I'm the Cabi girl. I wouldn't say all of them are clients, but most of them are clients just because that happens organically. The same thing with our local museum. We joined a country club because we love, the great outdoors and taking our kids over there. So relationships through those things that I enjoy doing are how I grow my business.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
I know I think it's putting the emphasis on building relationships with people, and that I think is your forte. And I have seen that through you. You are a very open, getting to know you person. You're interested in other people.
Mm.
Whenever you meet somebody, you are full, as you say, you are full on, you are asking questions, you're getting to know them. You're open to that. And I think as entrepreneurs, that is one of your gifts. And I think it's a gift that everybody needs to learn. I think I learned it from you.
Interesting, because I view you that way.
Well, I think I am that way, but I think you have a special knack when people meet you because you are interested in them. They become more interested in you. And I think that is a huge forte to have and being an entrepreneur, because we work from home alone and we have to make time to build relationships. It is so important, right?
Yes. And it's funny, I heard something years ago. Again, this is for those who feel like you're not natural at it, like Gail was saying, and thank you for, just kind words like that. But back in the day when I was new and trying to figure out this whole entrepreneur thing, like most, I thought, oh, well, I need to join a networking group. That's kind of what people did or told me I needed to do. And I realized early on that wasn't my jam. Okay, so if you are getting rich relationships out of that, that's fantastic, but it's not for me. Yeah. I had to learn that. But in the process of learning that, to make it more enjoyable for myself, I played this game with myself when I would go to a networking event, which for me was like a root canal. And so I would say to myself on the way in, I'd say, all right, I will count this as a success if I leave there knowing everything I can know about the people I meet and no one knows anything about me. That was my goal, to make it fun. And do you know what? Those were rich meetings.
It is. I had a similar thing, not particularly like when I would enter a big room of people and I had to find a seat. I would say to myself, I am just going to go exactly to this table and choose this seat. And whoever I sit next to today is going to be my best friend. I'm going to interview. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Rather than feeling so awkward in the, I don't know, it didn't feel all that natural. So the net weaving part just, is.
Yeah, I love that.
Good.
Yeah. And then what about professional development? How do you continue to grow as an entrepreneur? Do you do it through courses, through books, or leadership, or what is your favorite way?
Well, actually a combination. I love being in the room, being in the audience of a speaker that captivates the room. Mm-hmm. So, that when those opportunities arise, that is so rich. I mean, the Simon Sinek's of the world. I mean, to just sit and listen. I mean, even the Gary Vaynerchuks, if you can handle the F-bombs.
I know. He's so interesting.
I'm telling you what, the guy is just...
He's amazing. Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing. And Robin Pugh, the confident leader. If some of you don't know who he is, he does a sound bite, every single Monday. And, there's some great things there. So I love that, being face to face with some of those. Of course, the company that I'm with, as most companies, they will invest in personal development, at leadership retreats and conferences. I always take advantage of those. Being a lifelong learner is absolutely key to being an entrepreneur, right? I mean, just always going up as a student, always allowing yourself to learn.
Yeah.
And then as far as books, I haven't bought any new ones lately, but I will say that the ones that I do have I have a whole shelf of what I feel like are the greats.
Mhm.
And when you find the books that are the greats, they are not time sensitive. They are
Mhm.
forever.
Yeah.
So I will pull a book out when I need a little inspiration or need to freshen something up in today's language. I just pull out one of these vintage books and they are as relevant today as ever.
Yeah. I know.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I'd say about personal development. And then one other thing that honestly is pretty key for me is I mentioned it earlier, but I mean it seriously, is going into the quiet. You know,
Mhm.
I don't think that entrepreneurs do that enough.
Mhm.
They maybe don't value the investment of the quiet time for what could come out of it on the other side if they just allowed it. And yeah, so for me, that's really key to my success.
And that you actually answered the next question was what I talk about work-life balance and self-care. And that's
Oh,
basically going into the quiet, right?
oh my
Knowing
goodness.
that
Yeah.
you need, what do you do for self-care? What helps you
Yeah.
go into the quiet? Where do you
So
go to the
so
quiet?
many things. Yeah, so many things. And they're little things, but they're the things that feed me. So
Um,
everyone will find the things that feeds them. But I remember, and I'll tell you what they are, but I remember couple years ago, we were going through a little bit of a rough patch. You know, I think all of us, as we are, kicking and clawing our way out of the lockdowns and learning how to people again and learning what people wanted again and all of that we've been through and came out on top of, yay, came out on top of. But in that time I took my a daily discipline, my quiet time, I took it to the extreme. And I used to just call it my Forrest Gump days, like where I just walk out the front door with absolutely no agenda
yeah.
and no plan. And I would just walk until I stopped. And I might call Steve three beach towns over and say, hey, here's the bar stool you can pick me up on. I mean, like I just let myself walk for hours on end. And because I knew that that inspiration and vision would be bubbling up if I just kept quiet. And so in those times, and I did a lot, I mean, I would say a whole season, 6 months went by where many days were invested. I almost said spent, but invested that way. And what I used to say to myself when I thought I was being a little bit irresponsible, honestly, I would say to myself, this is what you are getting paid to do. And I
Hmm.
want people to hear that. I would tell myself, I am getting paid as a top leader to
Mhm.
do nothing but be quiet.
Mhm.
This is where my paycheck comes from.
Yeah.
And I had to say that until I really believed it. I did believe it in my spirit, but
Yeah.
there were so many things that needed my attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was the tyranny of the urgent. Was I going to go do that or stick to my intuition?
It's
So,
giving yourself grace,
oh
basically.
my goodness. Yeah. Out of that emerged a whole new world,
Yeah.
really. So, self care. Every day at lunch, Steve works from home too. So we have this beautiful backyard. And on the sun, I'm a sun girl. So on the sunny days, I'll fix lunch. I'll open up our French doors. I'll be like, oh,
I know.
recess. I mean, like, I just embrace it. Like, I earned recess today. We're sitting
Exactly.
outside. We're taking a leisurely lunch. I mean, those little wins
Yeah.
are what make our day enjoyable. I walk to the beach every day, just like you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walk along the beach, not on the sand, I think, like how you do, but we have this bluff area. So the sunshine, the fresh air, those are really big deals to me.
Important parts of life.
Super
Yes.
important parts of
I
life. Yeah,
love I love it.
definitely enjoying the journey. And even silly, carving out time for those midweek dinners with friends.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're eating anyways. Why would we have seats at our table that are empty? It doesn't need to be fancy, just, infilling. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just come over and, we're eating anyway, open the front door and come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you had one piece of advice for entrepreneurs, that you feel would be helpful for them, what would it be?
Well, I have two that come to the top of my head. One is a very old wise woman said this to me one time. I was in a Bible study with her, and she's probably long gone by now, but I will certainly never forget her words. And I probably was in my mid 40s at the time, which is just, those are the chaos years, right? If you've got children, oh my heavens, you just hang on for dear life. And she said to us younger moms, she said, girls, just remember this, never put more into a day that can be done in a gracious way.
Oh, I love that.
You will never forget that, right?
Never.
How simple of a principle is that? And versus my girlfriends whose husband always says to her, oh, her name's Amy. Oh, okay, Amy. So it's another day where you're trying to pack 10 pounds into a 5-pound bag. Like, no, Amy, that's not how I want to live. No. So yeah. So never put more into a day that can be done in a gracious way. That'll slow you right on down. Yeah.
For sure. I love it. Well,
and then the one other, for those who are leading teams, and this came from our mutual friend, Rosemary.
Yes.
Back in the day. Oh my goodness, I really live on this one. And she said to me as an early leader, she said, don't ever do for one that you can't do for 100.
I remember.
Right? And I still have that boundary. Yeah. So you love them all, but you just, you want to be in it for the long game. Exactly. And you want to stay refreshed and inspired and all of that.
Love it. Yeah. So now what I want you to do is share with us where people can connect with you. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what you do. We will be putting a lot of all your information in the description below, but share with us where people can connect with you and a little bit about what you do.
Okay. Well, I am on social media. I'm just my name. I have a public profile on Facebook. And then I have a group called Your Best Style with Marijane on Facebook, but, connecting either of those. I'm on Instagram, just my name, Marijane Relth. And then I have a company website, but you wouldn't connect with me necessarily there. Probably Facebook or text or email, which are you putting that information in there?
We'll put your Cabi website below as well. Tell us a little bit about what you do with women in fashion.
Okay. Yeah. So I am in the fashion business, clothing business for women, and we're a private label sold exclusively through the direct selling channel. So I've been doing this for, I can't even believe it, Gail, 30 years now. That's just amazing, right?
I know. Isn't it amazing?
And, I can honestly say that I am as passionate about it as I've ever been. I love the opportunity on the front face, me as a stylist working with women. I love, getting someone in the right clothes for her age, her lifestyle, her body shape, all the things, that are pain points for women or friction points. I love being that solution and having her stand in front of the mirror and just say, wow, I'd buy myself a beer. I haven't felt this good in years. That's the big win for me, is being a solution for women and just making sure they have the right things. And then also I do, for those that this might be of interest, I do a lot of fashion philanthropy, which really I love doing. I've kind of built generosity right into my business plan. So I love doing fashion shows, fundraising fashion shows for organizations, obviously, as well as topics that are sometimes hard for people to take a look at, like domestic violence or addiction, incarceration, trafficking, some of those issues that I'm passionate about, lifting others out of. Well, what I've found is when I do a beautiful fashion show, you can wrap any kind of message that might be uncomfortable around a beautiful runway show and a luncheon, and women just love it and learn a little bit and open their purses to donate. So if I can be a secret weapon for anybody who's looking to raise some money through fashion, I would just be honored to be part of that.
Great.
For sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And then you have,
of course, I will do a plug here right now for sure, because we are just exploding with growth in 3 different countries. And so honestly, it is, come one, come all. Anyone who is interested in and explore more conversation about working alongside me, I am looking for those girls that have a heart for service and a passion for lifting others up. And, love fashion. Yeah. Exactly. No experience necessary, right? Just like we didn't have any when we came in.
Exactly. Well, it's like full circle. When we started this interview, I'm looking at that map back there and how you own your organization to 3 different countries. And that's because of your skill answering all of these questions as an entrepreneur that we have discussed today. And so I love it. And I just want to thank you so much for being part.
Thank you. Always fun to just talk about, the daily life of, entrepreneurship, right? Because what did they say? The middle of any goal is boring. Right. So sometimes we can feel like, am I really getting there? Well, of course we are.
We're all getting there. Exactly.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Thank you so much, Marijane. I so appreciate it.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
Did you enjoy our conversation? I loved talking about Marijane's testament to consistency for entrepreneurs. She shared how something simple as a consistent Monday call with her entire organization across 3 countries keeps everyone connected. And I love her get it or regret it call with her top leaders. That's pretty inspiring because she's motivating and teaching them to stay focused and driven. And I love how she described her approach to net weaving instead of the traditional networking by engaging in activities she loves and, giving back to the community that she's passionate about. She's doing that and building amazing, meaningful relationships, which shows in her success. Her belief is simple. When you serve your community and lift others up in a shared cause, you create strong, lasting connections. And what about her fashion philanthropy? That's another powerful way that she channels her passion into making a difference. So if you watch this video and love fashion and have a heart for service and are looking for financial security, I highly encourage you to click the links below to connect with Marijane, or as she puts it, explore more through a conversation. Now, don't forget to subscribe. I'm looking forward to sharing with you my next entrepreneurs on my next video very soon, and I'll see you then.